Hi guys, and welcome back to Create Obsession, where I make things, crochet, sewing, and other. So for this video, I decided to pull out this sewing pattern. I believe it's like a vintage sewing pattern from the 90s. I don't know, is that considered vintage? I found it at a thrifted store. It was 59 cents. It was 59 cents, and I was really stoked about potentially making my own poncho, but then I couldn't get over this beautiful figure right here in the red. I would have loved to do it in red and felt like Little Red Riding Hood whenever I wore it, but I don't. And I am trying my very best this year, telling myself anyway, that I'm not going to be buying any new fabrics or yarns until I burn through my stash. And I don't know if you see, but I have quite a stash. I don't work through them fast enough to expect it happening anytime soon. So instead of waiting for the future, I'm just gonna jump in, make this with what I do have, which is this beautiful Luxe fleece fabric that I got at Joann's. I had every intention of turning it into the back side of the blue jean blanket, which would have been gorgeous, but I honestly think I would have broke my sewing machine trying to do that because this fabric is way too thick to do blue jean and this and expect it to go through the washing machine. Absolutely not. Would not happen. I only know that now that I've worked with both blue jean and I'm starting to work with this because it's a lot thicker than I gave it credit for. So yeah, just keep watching and I'm excited to see how it turns out. As always, the first step to working on most patterns is remove 10 years of your life cutting out the pattern before you actually can cut out the pattern on the fabric. So love this step, highly recommend, totally kidding. But friendly reminder that you should be using other scissors than your fabric scissors. You should have a specific pair for your fabric just so you don't dull them over time cutting out things that are not fabric. Moving on, I did attempt to lay this out on my table and cut it thinking that that was a good idea, but the joke was on me because I soon found out that it was not going to fit on my table and I had to lay it on the floor, and that worked a ton better. I even used old books or just like random assortment of books that I had for holding down the paper pieces. I know some people use weights, but books work too, or other heavy things. Just make sure you don't drag them around too much on the actual pattern because they did make a tiny tear on one of my pieces, so sad there. Okay, so I got all the pieces cut out. And I'm just like, I don't really know because it just says, according to the instructions, stitch, serge, center, back seam. Front to back at shoulder seams. Okay, that's great and all, but this is the only picture that it actually comes with. That's the only picture that it shows. Like, what does that mean? Is this the back right here? Does it go like that? Or is it like this? Because I don't know. I don't know which one's the centered back. Is it the one that I cut straight? Which would make the most sense, but then the curved one has to match the other curved one, right? Where does it go? I don't know what that means. I don't know. I have questions about the instructions and I need to find out who to ask. But this is an ancient pattern. Okay, I think I figured it out. With the little picture right here. The roundy part is the outside. So the roundy part is the outside. Okay, and I think this one is the back piece. Ooh, I think I was getting somewhere. 10 years later, I finally got it. We have the pieces for the beginnings. Yes, we do. Once I was done cutting and I figured out how to start sewing it together, I started sewing. Some of these parts got really chunky though. I think there was one point where I was afraid my sewing machine might actually break because this fleece was so stinking thick. I did have a walking foot on there to help feed the fabric through evenly. I don't know if this was supposed to happen, but there's quite a bit of difference there. I mean, I'm not gonna re-sew it. I'm just gonna keep going and be mindful that whenever I sew these top portion sleeves, that things are gonna go down. So we're just gonna have to do better next time. Yeah, also my machine is struggling. And honestly, the more that I work with thick fabrics, I really want to get a heavy duty sewing machine because this little baby girl is not having it. So I'm gonna keep going and just be mindful. Maybe I'll slow it down a little bit, but yeah, we're gonna keep going. Also, who was the idiot that pinned everything together on the right sides facing out? This time I'm actually gonna try something different. I made them slightly different towards the end because the bottom ended up being shorter than the top on the other side. So I made this bottom a little bit longer so that if it does stretch, maybe it'll stretch perfect. We'll see how it goes. Even though I was really trying on this one, I still got this much off. And gorgeous on that side right there. I did amazing. I did so good. No lie, these fabrics are really slippery together. The only other time I've worked with a fabric that kind of reminded me of this was whenever I was using minky fabric because I thought it would be a good idea to cut minky and sew it back together. And I hated myself every step of that process. So never cut minky down the middle thinking you're gonna do some really cool design because it's just gonna move a bunch and you probably want it in bigger chunks than what you know. And I guess same thing with this fabric, is it likes to slip around. Life is short. Don't worry if it's not perfect. And guess what? You learn more as you work with this fabric or similar fabrics. So all I learned is that I'm not seam ripping it. I'm not starting over. I'm just gonna cut it. And I'll lay it out and I'll cut what looks right to the eye because guess what? Your clothing is not perfectly sewn together. You could look at it and it's just, you can tell who's practicing on that new pattern. And it's this girl right here, she's practicing. So don't worry about it. Just let it go and move on and keep completing your project. I did have a few moments enjoying trying on the pieces. I always do, so there's that too. All right, guys, this is how far I made it for part one. I've got everything sewn together. That's like the main part of it. You can see. I'll have to like do a little zoom out. Okay, here it is in most of its glory. It's not quite done yet. There are quite a few things that I have to do. You can't see, but the bottom is actually uneven. I'll see if I can show you. The pieces didn't match up quite at the bottom, so I'm gonna have to trim that out. So basically, it's not all done. There are quite a few places that I'm gonna have to touch up, but I'm really excited about it. I think it's gonna be super cute. I do think I'm gonna have to lay it with some inner fabric just because I think for the look that I want, I think it's just gonna be more finished looking if it's got something else on the inside, something to beautify it. So I will be adding and interlaying whenever I figure out what material I'm going to use. But all of that is gonna happen in a part two because I realized it was just too much for me to do in 1 week. But yeah, super excited for part two, and you can come back here and see how it goes. Thanks for watching, bye! I definitely feel like my husband is probably gonna want this, so we'll see.